doing the second round of the superhero draft. And if we did the first round, I think it was 2 weeks ago. So, a little bit has changed, especially with DC because of the Snyder Cut, and Zack Snyder has revealed new information. And last week, I casted someone to play Nightwing and someone to play Red Hood. Well, Zack Snyder revealed information that the dead Robin that was referenced in Batman v Superman was Dick Grayson, who is Nightwing. So, though my Nightwing and my Red Hood pick are no longer valuable because I'm trying to base these picks that will fit into the DCEU. So Taron Egerton, who I picked for Red Hood, and Zac Efron, who I picked for Nightwing, are up for grabs now. So.
Alright. So this is the second round of the cinematic superhero movie draft.
Since you went first last time, do you want me to go first this time?
Sure.
Okay, so what I've done is that I've come up with like what I think would be a good movie plan going forward, and like kind of a synopsis of the movie, and just to go with my picks and everything. So so like what in the order of release for DC is Wonder Woman 84, and then Suicide Squad 2. So then after that, I think the next best choice is a Green Lantern movie. And last time we did the draft, I wanted to pick Luke Evans as Sinestro, but Nathan took him for Kraven. So my first pick for the second round draft is Christopher Eccleston as Sinestro. Now, Christopher Eccleston played the Ninth Doctor for the first season of the 2005 Doctor Who reboot, and he actually played the villain in Thor: The Dark World.
He did?
But no one remembers him.
Was that the one with like the Dark Elves or something like that?
Yeah, like he played like the most evil of the Dark Elves or whatever. So I mean, I completely forgot he was even in that movie until like I looked at all the movies and the TV shows he's been in. So I mean, and that like Thor: The Dark World is the most forgettable Marvel movie. So I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna really notice if he's in the DC movies. But I think he could really pull off the like the darkness and the intimidation of Sinestro. 'Cause, I mean, he was really good at doing that as the Ninth Doctor, and he also had really good chemistry with all the rest of the cast in the show, but also I think he would just really look the part. So.
Alright, so the first pick that I have is Reed Richards, and you already know that I'm going to pick John Krasinski for Reed Richards. I mean, if you look up like one of those pictures that has like John Krasinski photoshopped in like a Reed Richards costume, there's no going back from that, you know? So
Oh, for sure. I think also after watching A Quiet Place, I think he could definitely pull off like a more stoic and like closed off Reed Richards. I don't know.
I mean, he's a phenomenal actor too. So like, I'm sure, however it's written, he'll find a way to pull it off. So.
I mean, and also like a lot of people have said that he doesn't have very good range, but I mean, I think that's been very disproven because of A Quiet Place and several other roles that he's had. And I don't know, I feel like he looks the part, he could pull off the part, and I don't know, I feel like he'd have really good chemistry with like Mark Ruffalo Hulk.
Yeah.
And the rest of and like Doctor Strange, I feel like he would really bounce off of them because even in The Office, he bounces off all of those other characters really well.
Just imagine, so, I mean, like John Krasinski as Reed Richards, and then Viggo Mortensen as Doctor Doom, and just how that would play out. That gives me goosebumps right there. I really hope like Marvel's listening and is like, yes, those are the people that we're gonna cast for these movies.
I was already sold before, but imagine Viggo Mortensen as Doctor Doom.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Marvel, we're in charge now. But anyways, um, my second pick. So to go along with like the movies that movie plan, the after Green Lantern, I have the Flash, and now what we learned in the Flash movie that before Barry Allen there was a different Flash, but I mean it was a while ago, and he went missing. And the first villain that I want in the Flash movies is the Reverse Flash. I mean, he was a really popular character on the Flash show, and also he's the most well known, I think, of the Flash villains. And who I want to play Reverse Flash is Bradley James. Now, Bradley James played Arthur in the Merlin TV show, and he was really good in it, and he had really good character moments and really good chemistry with the rest of the cast. And he actually got casted in the 2 months ago as David Bowie for the upcoming David Bowie picture. So I mean, if people don't know his name now,
They will.
they definitely will
Yeah.
whenever that movie comes out, because biopics are so popular nowadays. And I don't know. I think he's been waiting for a really big role, because I know he's been in like a couple different period dramas. So I think he was just like I think he's underrated, and if you put him in a big blockbuster movie like they're going to as David Bowie, and then immediately after that into a Flash movie as a villain, I think he could be considered one of the better young actors.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. So my second uh, draft is Susan Storm, because you can't have the Fantastic Four without all of them. And for Susan
Mhm.
Storm, I choose Yvonne Strahovski. Forgive me if I pronounced that wrong, but
Who's that?
she did the voice for Batwoman in I think it's Batman Bad Blood. I think it
Hmm.
is. So she has that experience in superhero, even if it is animated, which I kind of think that animated is more difficult than live action, because you have to get um, it's all in like the tone of your voice, really. Where like with live action you have the facials and everything that adds on to the words. But anyways, she looks the part too, and I think that uh, with her experience in that Batman movie, that she could pull off being Susan Storm. And plus she's a mother too, so combining the superhero side and the motherly side is what is necessary for Susan Storm, and I think that she could
Hmm.
pull it off.
Now, do you think she would have good chemistry with John Krasinski?
Well, like you said, like in The Office, and pretty much anything else you've seen John Krasinski, and he's able to pull away from, or to pull off from the rest of the cast, and have that chemistry with him. So
Hmm.
I think there could be good chemistry. I haven't seen anything that Yvonne Strahovski's in, I don't think, but I believe that John Krasinski would be able to create a good chemistry with her. So.
Okay. For my third pick, or like the third movie in my list, would be Man of Steel 2. And like in this movie, Lex will is like has gotten out of prison, because I mean, billionaires don't stay in prison for very long. And he comes out and he's trying to become like a public servant, and he's trying to restore his image. And this is when Supergirl will be like introduced into the movies, and like Lex Luthor during this time will he'll be secretly building, trying to assemble like the League of Doom and everything. And for like the villain of this movie, they could literally just do either someone like Bizarro or the Eradicator, which is like a clone of Superman, so you wouldn't have to cast someone else. But I mean, the big part of this movie is like Supergirl being introduced. But I mean, after that, uh, we're gonna do a Batman movie specific to the DCEU. Now, the thing that I wanted to do was have the Riddler be the villain. Well, in the Robert Pattinson movie, the Riddler is gonna be the villain. So I wanted to pick a villain who we have never seen in live action, and someone that I think would actually work really well in the universe, and that's gonna be the Mad Hatter.
Hmm.
And he's a villain who's like obsessed with Alice in Wonderland. He's crazy like the Joker, and he's really smart like the Riddler. So I mean, with that, we get a whole new villain and everything
Hmm.
that we've never seen before, and also someone that like in this movie, Carrie Kelly will be introduced, and like in this movie, we can see that she's smart and can keep up with Batman. And who I want to play as the Mad Hatter is Elijah Wood.
Hmm.
And I haven't seen a lot of things with Elijah Wood besides like Lord of the Rings, his brief cameo in sh- uh, Spy Kids 3,
It's
whenever
the
he's
guy.
the guy, he's the guy. But I don't know, I haven't seen him in anything else, but from like what I've heard, he's been doing some really good stuff on TV. So I mean, I think that'd be really cool to bring him back into the movie game
Hmm.
and like put him in a position that's completely different from Frodo Baggins. I mean, even then, when like Frodo was being tempted by the ring, he made some pretty like creepy facials, and it was kind of scary. So I mean, why not put him in a position where he has to go against Gerard Butler Batman? You
Yeah.
know, I think that'd be really cool. And okay, so a couple weeks ago, I said I wanted Carrie Kelly to be the Robin of the movies, and then a week later, Zack Snyder said he wanted Carrie Kelly to be the Robin in the movies. So either he's listening to this, and if you are, please give me a job, or we're on the same page. Either way, I think like this would be the best choice, especially since there's another Batman series going on.
Right. Okay, so next I have Johnny Storm, and I have two people that I think could play Johnny Storm, and the first one is Lucas Hedges. Um, you might have heard of him, but he's been in a lot of uh, recent movies coming out, and in each of those movies, he's done a really good job in those. And then the second is Garrett Hedlund, and he was in the Tron movie. I think it was Tron Legacy. I think is the title.
Oh, is that the Tron movie that came out like 2012 or something?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
So that's that's who I have for Johnny Storm. But I think Garrett Hedlund, the Tron guy, would
Hmm.
do a really good job as Johnny Storm. So I'm gonna go with him over
Yeah,
Lucas Hedges.
I
Which,
don't really know who Lucas Hedges is, but
mhm,
I know who you're talking about with the other guy.
mhm,
I mean, I think he did an okay job with what he was given with the Tron movies, because I personally I didn't really like those movies, but I mean, I think he did a good job with what he was given.
mhm,
And with uh, the Human Torch, it also really depends not only on the chemistry with Sue Storm and Reed, but especially with Ben Grimm. You
right.
know, so I don't know. I think the guy you picked would work pretty well, but um, now this is the fourth pick, right?
Yes.
Okay, so with that, I have so Dwayne the Rock Johnson is supposed to be playing Black Adam, which is like Shazam's biggest villain. And apparently they're supposed to be giving him a movie. And from like I've been doing a lot of research trying to figure out like DC, who DC has cast, who they want to cast, and apparently in the Black Adam movie they're supposed to be introducing Doctor Fate, Hawkgirl, and Hawkman. And last time I casted Hawkgirl because I think she works better with the Justice League. But tonight for fourth my fourth pick, I'm going to cast Theo James as Hawkman. And Theo James is the guy who plays 4 in the Divergent series.
Yeah.
Because yeah, not only can he play like intimidating and tough, but I mean he can also I think he also just kind of looks the part, especially if you put him in the armor. And Hawkman and Hawkgirl are supposed to be like soulmates who keep getting reincarnated. So I don't know. I think it'd be pretty interesting to see what him and Olivia Cook could come up with. But yeah, that's what I'm picking.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
Um, so my fourth pick is the Thing, and for him I choose Brian Tyree Henry, and he's the guy who he was in the Spider-Verse movie, and he's also in this Spider-Man game for the PlayStation, which I'm playing right now.
Who does
But
he play?
he's Miles Morales' dad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think he could do a good job in that role and kind of I don't like. I think it'd be really interesting to have that kind of like. What am I trying to say? It's like Miles' dad in the movie. Kind he's a little strict, right? But then he's also got that kind of playful side, and I think that's something that Ben Grimm has too, and I just think that would work really well. And
I mean, he also has that scene where like he talks to Miles
mhm,
through the door, and you can really tell that he does care about
yeah,
Miles. And I mean, I think that would work really well within the dynamic of the group. I feel like
he's
because a
already
lot of
played
time.
something like that, and I think
Mhm.
that putting him in another role like that, and technically it's not like the Spider Verse isn't part of like Disney's Marvel,
Mhm.
so I that works, right? That doesn't go against our
Yeah,
rules,
I think so because I mean you casted Haley Steinfeld and she played Gwen Stacy in that
right?
movie because I wasn't really worried about like animation movies. So, but I mean, for the longest time, everybody wanted I think David Harbour, the guy who
Yeah,
plays Hopper in Stranger Things, and I mean, I wanted that too. I thought he looked the part, and I think he could definitely do it. But then they casted him as like Black Widow's dad.
yeah,
So I
and
mean,
then he's also was Hellboy, wasn't he?
yeah, yeah, the Hellboy movie that nobody saw.
Hmm.
Yeah, that one. But I mean, I don't know, because like for the longest time, I always saw him as like Ben Grimm because like there's a lot of like fan made posters and everything with him as Ben Grimm. And so I mean, that's like that's a role that I never could think of someone to play. So I mean, I think that's a good solid pick, and I think it's a pick no one would expect, but
Hmm.
what could actually work.
All right, so that's my pick.
Okay, so my next pick is okay. So after Black Adam, I think it'd be cool because Marvel hasn't done this yet, but have the Justice League go against a group of villains because Marvel, the Avengers have never gone against like the Dark Avengers or
Right.
anything like that. But I mean, to set DC apart from them, they could do this and have it where they're facing the League of Doom. I mean, you have all of the big villains from each of the solo movies, like Sinestro, Black Adam, Cheetah, Lex Luthor, Joker, Reverse Flash, Black Manta, and all of them. And I mean, at this point, I think it'd be a good idea to add Hawkgirl and Martian Manhunter into the league. But after that movie, after they finish fighting and everything, I think it'd be good if they made a Green Lantern Corps movie. And this would be more of like a buddy cop movie. And this is where we would introduce Jon Stewart,
Hmm.
who is a huge fan favorite character, and he was easily one of the best characters in the old Justice League cartoon. And in that cartoon, they kind of hint at Hawkgirl and Jon Stewart being interested. So I mean, there's a love triangle for the movie because I mean, it always seems like in big blockbusters, there's always some type of love triangle. But for Jon Stewart, I want to cast John Boyega.
Hmm.
Now, that might be a little young, but I mean, John Boyega is like 28. He's almost 30, and I don't know. He just did such a good job in the Star Wars movies, and he's able to have really good chemistry
With
with
anybody that he's on
literally
screen with.
anybody. I mean, that was one of my favorite parts of Force Awakens, was just that he could have chemistry that seemed like they'd been friends for years with a character he had just met. And I think one that would work really good with Army Hammer, and I also think John Boyega could pull off like intimidating, like how Jon Stewart is. 'Cause, I mean, Jon Stewart is like an architect. He's a veteran. He's all these different things. And I mean, he's always been like the tough guy of the group. And I definitely think if you give John Boyega a chance and you give him the spotlight, kind of like how they did in Force Awakens, I mean, I think he would be really good. I think he deserves another shot. You know,
Yeah,
he
for sure.
deserves another chance to play a big character in a big movie. But
So we're on pick number 5 now, right?
uh yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so the next character that I have on the list is Gambit.
Hmm.
And for Gambit, um, the person that I chose to play him is, and I'm probably going to butcher this name, um, Gaspard Ulliel. Gaspard Ulliel? Or something like that. But he's French, and he's in a whole bunch of different French movies. But the thing about him is he really looks like Gambit.
Hmm.
He was in Hannibal Rising as well, and I haven't seen the movie, but I know there's a lot of really good actors that were in that movie as well. So I think I don't know this guy a whole lot. He's been in a whole lot of French movies, but he's French and he looks like Gambit, and I'm pretty sure if he's given a chance, he could probably pull it off. So,
See, I mean, I think for like big roles and franchise stuff, I know we're like casting really big names, but I think a lot of times I think the unknown person I think is the best choice. Because I mean, Hugh Jackman was unknown. I think Tom Holland was relatively unknown. You know,
mhm.
like Chris Hemsworth was unknown. Tom Hiddleston was unknown. Like a lot of these actors weren't really well known. I mean, now they're just iconic characters.
Right.
But I mean, they've been wanting to make a Gambit movie for years. You know, they've been wanting to make like an origin movie for him with Channing Tatum, and like just for some reason Fox has it's never come through. So I mean, now that Marvel has the rights, I think he's definitely going to end up either with his own movie or in an X-Men movie. So I mean, I think it has a good likelihood of happening.
So that's my fifth pick. Now we're on 6, right?
Yeah, okay. For my sixth pick, let me refer to my notes. Um, okay, so after Green Lantern Corps, which is the buddy cop movie, I think now, like after that, would be the perfect time to do a Green Arrow movie. Now, last time we did the draft, I casted Charlie Hunnam as Green Arrow and Diane Kruger as Black Canary. Well,
Yeah.
apparently Black Canary was in the Birds of Prey movie, so I don't know. Maybe Diane Kruger can be a different Black Canary. I don't know, but I mean, in this movie, it'll like uh, he's Green Arrow will have been Green Arrow for like maybe a year or two. So I mean, you can kind of play with his origin a little bit if they wanted. But in this movie, we would introduce Roy Harper. He was one of my favorite characters in DC, and he'll be either Red Arrow or Arsenal. And I think the only actor I can see in this role is Doc Ray Montgomery, and he's the guy who plays
Yeah.
Billy in Stranger Things, and he played the Red Ranger. Ever since I saw that Power Rangers movie, I've wanted him to either play Red Hood or play Roy Harper. I mean, I think he can because Roy Harper has this righteous indignation where he's not where he thinks he's not a sidekick. He's like, no, Green Arrow and me are partners. I was never his sidekick, even though he is the sidekick. And I don't know, and he always like held in the comic books and the cartoons. He always holds himself to a higher standard because of like Nightwing. And so I don't know. I just think it'd be interesting, especially with Charlie Hunnam, like what would happen. I feel like they would really make it work, and especially if Diane Kruger or I don't remember the name of the actress who plays her in the Birds of Prey movie, but because like Black Canary and Roy Harper have this like weird understanding, and like Black Canary has this like motherly role for Roy Harper as like a role model and someone to calm him down. So I mean, I think Dr. Montgomery would really work in this role.
And I was gonna pick him further on down the line, but that's okay.
Oh, who were you gonna pick him for?
Um, it was gonna be Angel.
Ooh.
Yep.
I,
Well,
I think I see him as Roy Harper more,
yeah,
but
that's okay. I had a backup, so it's all good.
okay, good.
That was one of the characters that I actually had a backup for. So
Mm,
hopefully you don't steal any more from me, because
okay,
I don't have that many.
I'll try not to.
Let's see. The next person that I have is Kitty Pryde, and
Mhm.
another Stranger Things cast member, Natalia Dyer, I think would be really good for Kitty Pryde.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I could definitely see that. And like Kitty Pryde is really important because she's usually like the POV character
Right.
for the X-Men. So I mean, if they're going to do a new X-Men movie and they need that POV character, I think they should definitely go with Kitty Pryde and not Rogue like they did with the 2000s movies.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah. I don't feel like I need to explain why I picked her for that role. So
okay. I mean, I
I
think
feel
it
like
would
it's
work.
explanation enough.
Okay, so for this is the number 7 pick. So one of my favorite characters from the Arrowverse TV show was Constantine, and because I don't know, he seemed like magic Doctor Who. Like if they added Supernatural and Doctor Who together, Constantine would pop out. I don't know. That's always what it seemed like to me. But Matt Ryan has done a really good job portraying Constantine, and a lot of people want him to have his own movie in the DCEU. But I mean, he's already been in the Arrowverse shows and everything, so I think it'd be just better to cast a new character. And Constantine is also part of the Justice League Dark, which is like paranormal, supernatural characters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they do a Constantine movie, it could also be that little taste of, oh, would people actually want a movie like this? Would they want a Justice League Dark movie in the future? Because that also set itself apart from Marvel. and people would stop comparing it like, oh, well, we have Justice League Dark, you guys don't have anything like that. So for who I want to play Constantine, I have a couple picks because my top pick would be Aaron Taylor Johnson, but he played Quicksilver, and there's also been rumors that he's going to show up in the WandaVision show. So
Is he
if that's
showing up in the
not true,
WandaVision show as Quicksilver? Or
I don't. I think so, but I mean,
that'd
those
be
are only rumors. I don't know if they're true or not. So, and I like Aaron Taylor Johnson as an actor. I mean, he played John Lennon in a movie called Nowhere Boy, and I mean he was pretty, and he was younger back then, and I mean he did a really good job. And I don't know, like every time I see him in something, it's like, oh hey, that's the guy who played Quicksilver. But I think he would just do great as Constantine, because Constantine is supposed to be like this English paranormal detective, and I feel like Aaron Taylor Johnson would really work. And I mean, he also didn't really get the spotlight whenever he played Quicksilver. So I mean, and he looks completely different in real life. So I mean, I don't think a lot of people would notice.
mm-hmm.
But I mean, besides him, I think Carl Urban, the guy, he's been in a couple different things. He played I think Éomer
Yeah.
in Lord of the Rings. He played Bones in the Star Trek movies, and he was in Thor Ragnarok. He was like the weird guard guy who was bald,
I
but he
call
died
this
at
one
the end.
Des and this one Troy. Put them together, they destroy.
Yeah, exactly, that guy. But I mean, his character is dead, and I don't think he's gonna come back. And I think Carl Urban or Aaron Taylor Johnson, but my first pick is Aaron Taylor Johnson. I think they'd do so good. And also in the Constantine movie, I want him and Zatanna to go on like paranormal adventures together,
Yeah.
because I think Allison Brie and Aaron Taylor Johnson would have a good back and forth, because Allison Brie has really good chemistry with other actors like in Community. So I don't know. I think it would work really well.
Nice. The next character I have is Mystique. And I think Charlize Theron should play Mystique. And she was in Mad Max Fury Road. She's not new to action movies and stuff like that. She looks the part too, and has the experience, I think, to bring something new to the character. Because in like the the first few X-Men movies, like Mystique was just kind of a side character. She didn't really, I mean, she did stuff, but she didn't do a whole lot and wasn't really like a main focus. Um, and I think that Mystique's a pretty important character to the X-Men franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because I mean, in those movies, she was really important to the plot, but we never really knew her as a character.
right. And
You
then
know?
in the newer X-Men movies, I mean, she wasn't really like a bad guy. She,
Yeah.
I don't think. I don't know, there was just something off. Maybe it was Jennifer Lawrence like acting as Mystique. I don't know. Um, but anyways, I think this Mystique would be more, the typical bad guy that she is in the comics. Um, but I think Charlize Theron should be the one to play Mystique.
Well, I mean, because they casted Jennifer Lawrence, it's like they gave Mystique too much spotlight, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Yeah.
Like they made her too much of a main character just because Jennifer Lawrence was playing her, and at the time, I mean, she was huge. I mean, she had just gotten done with like Hunger Games and everything. So I mean,
Yeah.
they could really sell those movies, because I mean, you have James McAvoy, who people know from a lot of different things, and then you have Jennifer Lawrence. And I feel like that was something they're like, yeah, we can really, if her name is on the poster, like we'll make millions more, because people, fans of like the Hunger Games enjoy, they'll come watch the movies.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's important to make her more of a distinct character, but Okay, so for not my number 8 pick, now after the Constantine movie, I think it's a good idea to go back to Aquaman 2. And so in like this movie, Arthur will have like officially taken the throne of Atlantis. Him and Mera get married, and she becomes the queen of Atlantis. And like in this movie, we learned that Ocean Master, who is Aquaman's like half brother, has a son. And well, they didn't really get along, and that son is going to be Aqualad. And so like Aquaman takes him under his wing and everything. And so there's this villain. It's not really a villain, but there's this part in the ocean called the Trench, and they're wanting to give the Trench its own like horror movie, which is weird. But I mean, we get a glimpse of the Trench in the Aquaman movie, and there's all these different like little monsters living in it. So I had an idea. Why not just make the Trench the villain of Aquaman 2, and the Trench just swallows Atlantis and just destroys it with leaving very few survivors? I don't know, I think it would work better and make a more interesting story. But anyways, who I picked to play Aqualad is Ludi Lin. Now, Ludi Lin is the actor who plays the Black Power Ranger in the Power Ranger movie that
Yeah.
came out in 2017. I think he works the part, and I think he would really work well with Jason Momoa. And if you listen last week, or not last week, the last time we did the first draft, you'll know that I picked Emily Blunt as Mara, and I feel like they would really work off of each other, especially since he's going to be more of a student to Aquaman and Mara. I don't know. I think would work really well.
Yeah.
And he just looks the part to me.
All right. So next I have Jocasta, which is like the female version of Ultron, if I'm correct. Um, and for Jocasta, I choose Gwendolyn Christie. And she was Captain Phasma, and she's also in Game of Thrones, I believe. But the reason that I choose her is because, like, when she's playing Captain Phasma, it's almost like, does it sound almost like a robotic voice to you? Kind of.
Yeah, with the voice modulator, it
Mm-hmm.
does.
So, I think since Jocasta's a robot like Ultron, they just use that kind of voice modulation thing, and Gwendolyn Christie can sound like a robot. Um,
Mhm.
and being Phasma's a bad guy. Even though she didn't have a whole lot of chance to shine, she was still kind of menacing, and I think that she could really, really make Jocasta work.
Mhm. I'm not really familiar with Jocasta, but I mean, I think especially because that actress, they were like, oh yeah, she's gonna be in the movie, or for I'm talking about Star Wars, but like
Yeah.
she's gonna be in the movie. She's gonna play this really cool general. She's gonna be like the next big, like she's like gonna be the next Boba Fett. She's gonna be so cool. It'd actually be interesting to see her in a role
Mhm.
where she is like a big bad villain and not just someone who kind of shows up and gets thrown down the garbage chute.
Yeah. I honestly feel bad for her being casted as Phasma, just because there's so many missed opportunities. But I mean, we can talk about that another time. So
Okay. So for the next movie after Aquaman 2, I have Justice League Darkseid. Now, they've been really leading up to Darkseid, but never actually committing to having Darkseid in the movie for the DCEU. But I mean, I think my synopsis, I think would work really well. So the movie would start in the distant future, and like 30, 40 years.
hold on, Darwin. You're cutting in and out.
Okay,
All right, try talking again.
am I good?
Yeah.
Is it working?
Yep.
Okay, so like after Aquaman 2, I think it'd be a good idea to do Justice League Darkseid because they've been leading up to Darkseid a lot. especially now that with the Snyder Cut, it's very heavily hinted at. So this could be outdated within a month or two if they keep releasing information. But I mean, for this movie, it would start in like the distant future, like 30 years or something, and we see Bart Allen, who is Barry Allen's grandson, and he like builds the quantum uh, treadmill or whatever, but he's like building it out of scraps, and like he goes back in time to warn the Justice League or whatever. Like he warns them like, "Hey, you guys need to fix this because like the future is all messed up because of Darkseid." And so for Bart Allen, I had a lot of trouble with this because I mean he he's a pretty big character, and the actor I've chosen is Thomas Barbusa. Barbusa? I don't know. I think that's how you say his name. Now, I've never seen this actor in anything,
Mm-hmm.
but from what I've read on him, he's been appearing in a lot of TV shows as side characters or commercials. So I mean, I think it'd be a really cool idea to push this young actor into a superhero role so he is no longer like the side character. But I don't know,
Right.
that's who I have. I don't really know a whole lot about him, but I mean he looks like Impulse. He looks like Bart Allen. So
All right. So the next person that I have is Kate Bishop, and for Kate Bishop, I choose Thomasin McKenzie, and I believe she's in Jojo Rabbit. She's a really young actress, but you know, being in Jojo Rabbit, I feel like is a pretty big deal, and to have been in that movie, I mean, it's Taika Waititi, so he's not gonna cast any uh, uh, just anybody in that movie. So I haven't seen her in it, but I believe just because she's in Jojo Rabbit, she's got the acting chops, and I mean, she kind of looks like Kate Bishop. I think she could do a good job in that role. So
I mean, Taika Waititi is usually pretty good about casting actors who have a lot of talent and are kind of quirky.
yeah,
So I mean, Kate Bishop is one of my favorite Marvel characters, just because of her back and forth with Clint Barton,
yeah,
and she's honestly a better Hawkeye than him because like she has money and she like I don't know like there's a comic book where it's like takes place in the future and she's become one of like the best superheroes of all time and has completely surpassed Clint Barton and like career wise, and she's really snarky and she's really funny, and I don't know, she's one of my favorite characters. So I mean, I think it'd work. I haven't seen Jojo Rabbit yet, but I really want to.
all right. So next pick.
Okay, so to go along with like the Dark Side movie that I have, um, so Bart Allen goes back in time and he warns everyone. He ends up in Star Labs and he meets Barry Allen, and like they have a whole back and forth, but he warns the League, but it's too late. Darkseid is already uh, at Earth, and in the comic books, there's this thing called the Watchtower, and it's like where Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, they kind of keep an eye on space and Earth, and so there's gonna be like a huge fight with Darkseid up in space. But anyways, the fight goes down to Coast City, which is Hal Jordan's hometown, and in that fight, Darkseid just waylays to the Justice League. And who I've picked to play Darkseid is Daniel Craig.
Hmm.
Now, Daniel Craig just got done playing James Bond,
Right.
and he's my favorite James Bond. I think from what I've seen of like I watched Casino Royale and a little bit of Spectre, and I think he's definitely my favorite James Bond. But I also watched Knives Out,
Yeah.
which is uh, written and directed by Ryan Johnson. So I mean, he's capable of making good movies whenever he's given time. Like you can really tell